You know, summer means project, and project means digging in your yard. And sometimes if we don't make the right decisions, we pay for it on the end. So this month we're talking with Energy Matters with LG&E, and they're going to tell us some things that we should do before we dig. Take a look. Every month we have a segment with LG&E, and we call it Energy Matters. And I'm here with Liz Pratt. And you know, we haven't been together in a minute, so welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
So what's been going on?
Well, you know, this is the perfect time of year when a lot of folks want to go ahead and start planting in their yard or doing landscape work. And so we really wanted to talk today about the importance of making sure before you stick the first shovel in the ground that you have your underground utility lines marked.
And I am one of those people that has in the past been guilty of not making that call, but since our partnership, I call relentlessly. And I know some things that we should do is make sure that we call, at least 2 days in advance?
Yes, you want to make sure you call at least 2 business days in advance, and that'll give the partner utilities enough time to come out and have the lines marked. And this is not just for your safety, but it's for the public's safety. By having your underground utility line marked and following the appropriate guidelines, it can prevent as many as 99% of accidental dig-in. So it's really important, not just for your safety, but it's also the law.
So Liz, you have Lisa with you today, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about what someone needs to know in terms of what's happening as it relates to looking for the underground wiring.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi. What they'll do is when you start your planning process of wanting to dig or your digging project, we want you to call 811 2 days prior to this, or you can click before you dig at 811 now.
Now, a lot of times people, they're concerned about making that call, but also is there any cost or anything associated with it?
No, it's absolutely free.
Okay. And tell us how that procedure works. What are the linemen looking for?
Okay, what you do is you either call or you can, like I said, click 811 now, and you enter your information such as your street address or wherever your project is taking place, and they will come out and mark your underground utilities. And as you can see, the various utilities have been marked. They're color coded, and once they have been marked, then you're okay to proceed with your excavation project.
So if you have a company that's going to come out and do some work, is it their responsibility to call, or is it you, the homeowner's responsibility? Who should make that call?
The person actually doing the digging.
Okay, so if that person fails to, it's probably a good idea for the homeowner to check up on it to make sure that it is occurring?
Yes.
Okay. And what are some of the things that can happen if that homeowner doesn't make the call? What is some of the trouble that you can run into?
Well, if you don't make the call and you put a shovel into the ground and hit a utility service, obviously it's going to cause an interruption in the service. One of the ththings we were talking about earlier, if you have teenagers that are gamers, then you're going to disconnect their internet service if you hit a internet service.
And that responsibility in terms of that cost for interrupting that service, that's going to fall on the homeowner, correct?
More than likely, yes.
Okay. And Liz, what are some other things that we should know?
Well, we want to make sure by putting in your locator request at least 2 business days. Something to keep in mind is once the lines have been marked, that locate request is good for 21 days. So if you have a contractor that's coming out and doing work, be mindful of when you put in that request. Because if that request expires, you're going to want to go ahead and put in another request.
So it's something you have to make sure that you do within that 21-day period.
Absolutely, and also be mindful of the guidelines that are in place. Once your lines have been marked, make sure you follow the guidelines of how far you need to stay away from the utility lines, at least 18 inches from where the lines have been marked. So you want to be mindful to follow the guidelines. All of these guidelines are available at 811now.com, or you can always visit lge-ku.com.
And one last thing, I noticed that the markings are different colors, and I'm assuming that means something. It's not just because she has all these great paints and wants to use them, but they actually mean something.
Yes, they do. Yes. The color code, actually, once your lines are marked, the locator that actually leaves the markings will leave a door hanger for you, and there's a color code that goes along with it that will be on the card that they leave for you. But as you can see, the red represents electric, yellow represents gas, orange would represent communications such as cable or internet. Blue represents water and green is sewer.
All right, well, that's some great information. So if we're going to do a recap, first thing that the homeowner should do is if they're going to have some digging done, that contractor needs to make the call, and the homeowner should follow up with the contractor to make sure that they make the call. They should do it at least 2 days in advance. And then what else should happen?
Absolutely. So once your lines have been marked,
Okay.
be mindful of the guidelines that are in place and make sure you follow the recommendations with your leave behind materials.
All right, and you're going to stay a certain amount of space away from those lines once you find them.
Absolutely. At least 18 inches on either side of the lines.
So you can see why it's so important.
Before you dig, it pays to ask the question
This
to
is true.
LG&E, and that's specifically to you.
You are correct, and they said you should really make the phone call about 2 days beforehand to make sure you're allowing yourself enough time. And even though you have a contractor, they are supposed to make that call, but if they don't, it's good to go to that contractor and say, hey, I know you're getting ready to plant some shrubs here. Did you call? And if they didn't, make sure that you do it yourself.
Yes.
We'll take another break and back with more right after this.